Hey everybody, welcome to the XCOM Enemy Unknown panel. Hello to everybody watching on the internet, on Twitch TV, and all of you here at PAX. We have an amazing panel for you guys today about this game. How many of you played the original XCOM? Yes. Got some hardcore fans here. Well, we're all really excited about the game that's coming out in October, and we've got the development team here. These guys have broken themselves away from the final hours of finishing up the game to come out here to Seattle to share some really cool stuff with you about the game. But what I'm really excited about this is that we're going to hear about the development, the process, and that's one thing that I've always tried to cover through a series I write called The Final Hours, about the gestation and the creation process behind these games. So we're going to hear some really cool stories and see a lot of stuff that no one else has seen before, but how you guys built this game. So let's introduce the guys from Firaxis. We've got Greg, Garth, Jake, and Casey. Let's talk a little bit about what you guys do on the game.
I'm Greg. I'm the art director on XCOM.
Boo. You're really about to boo now. I'm Garth, the lead producer on XCOM.
I'm Jake. I'm the lead designer.
Like the designers.
And I'm Casey, the lead programmer.
Art is really good. I mean,
I'm on the wrong side of the table. All right, well, before we get into it, let's take a look at the E3 trailer for XCOM Enemy Unknown.
All attempts to contact the invaders thus far have failed. Their only purpose seems to be destruction and chaos. One fact is quite clear. The ministers of the world are severely outgunned. In the absence of a miracle which gives them their means, the end of civilization is known.
Hello, Commander. In response to the alien threat, this Council of Nations has chosen to activate the XCOM project. You have full command of XCOM headquarters. You must learn more about the enemy to expand our capabilities, as well as the abilities of our operatives.
The thoughts will come in from around the world. Opposing ships will be blown out of the sky. Military aircraft burning the markings of no country. Special forces soldiers with weapons and body armor unlike anything you've ever seen.
Enemy Unknown, 1,000 stupid ideas on the road to glory. And as I mentioned, we're going to take you guys through some of the creative process that these guys went through to come up with the game, which is, won a ton of awards at E3 and is definitely really gaining a lot of traction here leading up to the October launch. First of all, though, guys, before we get into sort of the history of this project, which I don't know if you guys know has been in development for a number of years. So even though it was just announced back in January, I think, in Game Informer, you guys have been working on it for a number of years, and we'll get into that. But first of all, tell us about your roles at Firaxis and how you got to the position you are right now working at Firaxis. Greg, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm the art director, like I said. I have been there the longest, I guess. I've been there since we started. So I guess about 15 years or something like that. So
look at that photo of Sid Meier right there, watching down on us.
Yes.
Our benevolent leader.
Exactly.
All hail.
Yeah, all hail Sid Meier. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So.
I'm definitely the rookie amongst this very strong leadership team. Used to be in the banking industry. Please don't boo again. I'm going to start getting hurt. And I
sold a lot of subprime mortgages. He's a good guy. Just a great guy.
But I needed to do something more creative and went to CMU's ETC and was very, very happy and lucky to be able to move, interview with Firaxis and eventually go there. And we're going to show you in a few minutes the video that I saw and made me want to go to Firaxis.
Right. I'm Jake. I have been at Firaxis for almost 13 years, so we're a lot of lifers at Firaxis, because once you leave, Sid never lets go. I played XCOM Enemy Unknown my senior year in high school. It came out in 1994, and I played it all year, and that's the reason that I got a computer science degree. And because of that's what made me love strategy games and come to Firaxis. And ever since I've been at Firaxis, I've been begging to make this game. So yeah, for me, this is really a labor of love. It was destiny. I'm sorry my wife's in the front row. I sound like I'm talking about like the love of my life, but I'm not. It's my mistress, this game. And she's cruel, but I'll be back to you soon, baby.
And I'm Casey, and I guess it was about 10 or 11 years ago, I thought I could be happy doing something other than making video games, and I'd left the industry for, I think maybe it was about a week before I realized how terrible of a mistake I'd made. And so 4 months after that, after doing submarine renavigation, I was lucky enough to find a spot at Firaxis, and I've been there for 10 or 11 years.
And you finally got, your dream became a reality here, Jake. You kept saying to your benevolent leader, Sid Meier, please let me make another XCOM.
Right.
How did you finally convinced him to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I had actually I worked on a prototype before, like in 2002, 2003, I worked on a prototype for XCOM, and it was terrible. I mean, it was just straight up terrible. So that's the only thing that we're not showing, because I'm so embarrassed about that. But what we do have is the movie that brought Garth to us. So you can set this up.
Greg and his team and Jake obviously sat down to kick off the project, and I interviewed with a lot of companies, but when I saw this video, which we haven't shown to anyone except employees at Firaxis, I'm a huge fan of squad-based tactical games, and when I saw it, I said, I have to be at Firaxis. So we're extremely excited to show you guys.
Yeah, this was our take on the gameplay pre-visualization, and it was never ever meant to be like a splash movie or anything like that. It was a really important tool that we had to establish what we wanted to make and what we thought we wanted to do. And it eventually turned into something that, like, when new employees or potential employees would come in, they'd see this. So yeah, that's.
And this was back circa what, like 2008?
2007, late 2007, early 2008. So a long time ago we made this movie.
All right, cool. Let's take a look at the first process.
Okay, go ahead. We definitely got a situation. Got moves, second floor.
They're here.
We got blue.
Epic fail.
What happened?
We're gonna go back. What, we're gonna try once more? You guys want to see the end?
Yeah!
Can we do it?
Third time's a charm.
Go to the end. All right, guys. Will it play? There we go. All right.
What are you doing? Stand down, soldier! Stand down!
Ramirez, report. What's going on up there?
All right, well, that was a tease.
Yeah.
We'll see the rest. But it convinced you to come to Firaxis. That looks amazing. I mean, that's for something that's 4 years ago. For you guys to work on that is pretty incredible. So that was sort of, pre-visualization, I guess, right, of what you imagined the game would look like?
And you can actually see a lot of the things in the game. Obviously, they did make it, and that was without any, that was sort of like just me working with the artist saying, like, I think the game may work like this. And so it's funny how many of those things actually stayed, like the way the doors open, generally the camera angle, I think, stayed. The little cinematic moments that we put into when they're opening doors, things like that. So yeah, a lot of that stuff stayed.
That's awesome. Now, that was the goal, the sort of previs that convinced everyone, hey, this is, the vision for the game we eventually want to make. But along, then you actually have to, get into the weeds and make that game. And along the way, I'm sure there's some, as we see on this slide, Jake's terrible idea time.
Yes.
Because you don't always hit it out of the park with every idea. You have to iterate. You have to think of new ideas. So maybe you guys could take us through some of those. Some of those
I don't want this to
potholes
become like
along the way.
Every time I see that slide, I'm like, this is going to become a thing. Jake's terrible idea time. But the simple fact of the matter is, like, designers, after a game comes out and they've made something that they're proud of, they spend a lot of time. You can go on panels and you can make yourself sound like a genius. And I didn't want to do that because I know what the team went through trying to implement some of my horrible ideas, which we're happy to show you today. So, I think one of the first things, and this was my first level generation code, as you can see here. Which put the shiv in, I guess I generated a house that's about 1 tile wide there. And that's just indicative of how great the game was when we started. One of the movies we're going to show, I think, is that next? Is the video next?
Yeah.
So, I had a really hard time understanding what the tone of the game was going to be. Like, I was thinking, well, it'd be dark, and these guys heard this many times, like, why did I say we needed to make this video? Because we didn't want it to be too serious, right? We don't want the game to come across too serious. We don't want to take ourselves too seriously. So I said, hey, after you complete research on items, what if we show a funny video for every single item that you research? So why don't we see how that, we made one of these. We made one, and
Stopped after.
With a motion scanner equipped, your soldiers will know every step your enemies take. The motion detector will highlight any movement within its range, including motion through walls, ceilings, floors, and even the dark. But be careful. If you don't pay attention to your motion scanner while in a dangerous area, you might find your security compromised.
It's fun. It reminds me of, like the Plasma videos about like that kind of fun,
I think they like it, Jake.
a slight mismatch in tone with the rest of the game. Like sometimes you look back and you honestly have no idea what drugs you were on to think that was a good idea. And that took us a while, right? Like I worked on that for a couple of weeks.
A little bit.
I don't think it was that bad. I mean, that's fun.
Yeah. It's not
We'll
bad.
see it in the final game, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on. All right, so there are obviously other ideas that you had along the way. And, the original game, you were obviously in some ways thinking of how to remake it, but also how to sort of, breathe new life into it, right?
Right, and for my next terrible idea, we also have footage of this as well, and Greg can probably talk about this a little bit. When you're trying to remake a game like XCOM, which again I'm very, very attached to, we had a moment where we realized like we weren't doing the game justice. We were sort of like just straight updating it, and then we were throwing all these extra systems onto it, the cover, the abilities, all these things, and it wasn't working. So then it was like, okay, well, we need to redesign some aspects here, and so I went back to the drawing board and then I went probably a little too far, in a certain direction, which we're about to show you. And all of these things, they seem like good ideas at the time. And Greg, you want to tell them about the sight lines?
Yeah, so Jake decided that you needed to see everyone and know where everybody was. And, I'm trying to make the game pretty. And so he introduces these things that we refer to as the candy canes, or barber poles. And you'll see them in a second. And they're cutting-edge technology visually.
Yeah, look at that UI. Yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
We tried a radial menu.
We tried radial menu, which of course didn't work on PC at all. There's a lot of things in this, right? So you can see the numbers on the soldiers as well. So there's the sight lines. Yeah. So every unit, and the way this worked design-wise, is that every unit that you could see would draw the range of their weapon, and then it's multicolored because the range of your weapon turns the line candy cane, and the range of their weapon is the solid color. No, it gets better. It's a great idea. So then when you're facing like 10 or 11 aliens on screen, like all you can see are these massive lines. And this is something that I seriously, I held on to with like a death grip for, months, right?
Months?
We probably had 10 iterations of this at least.
Yeah.
And the programmers would, they'd do something and Jake would look at it with them and say, well, that didn't work, let's try this. And so the poor programmers have iterated and iterated and iterated on this only to have it thrown away, basically.
Right, yeah. And it's as you can see. And design-wise, what happened is that when you play with a system like this, what you find is that all you're doing is staring at these lines on screen. You're not even playing the game anymore. And it was a truly, look, sometimes it turns orange. Yeah. Oh, look, there's a white line, yeah. What do all those lines mean? I'm not even sure. So yeah, that, and the numbers, now the other thing there is the numbers on the soldiers. So you see that they all have multiple numbers, and so they have an offensive number and they have a defensive number. So when they take cover, you see the numbers floating up. And again, it was the sort of thing that sounded like he suppressed them, so that guy's offensive number went down by 1. And these are all things that sort of make sense from a design standpoint in the comfort of my office. And then when you put them in the game, you have all these units on screen. They all have different numbers, and it was really, really confusing.
And there was a time when there was only one number.
That's right. There was a time when there was only one number. But that wasn't good enough because nobody understood the system. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just add another number.
And then when you said add 3, finally you said maybe I should just stop.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's that was this. And, the funny thing is we sit here and we look at this and you see there are so many things here that never made the final game, like the prongs under their feet, which sort of tell you visibility information, all this stuff. Like you see the little lines drawing under the units there. But as a designer, this is a moment where the team, like your job is to make the game fun. Your job is to design something that's fun, and the team is working incredibly hard to carry out your vision, and they did a fantastic job. But when these ideas continue to fail and not work, that's exciting too, is next time you watch the sectoids move, watch them in their upright move, because they seriously look like geriatric, again, something that didn't make the final game. But yeah, as a designer, this is something where I think this is a moment where I think we were all a little nervous because the game was not exactly as fun as we were hoping at this point.
And this is 2009, 2010, or how?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
That wasn't painful to play against. Just hours of watching the sectoids move. So
yeah, if you see the current sectoid animations, they now run on all fours. They're a little bit more primal, and it's a funny story. Just seeing that, but also Sid actually gave you some feedback, right?
Yeah, that was from Sid.
They look a little too human-like, and when you hear him scream, it was almost like you're shooting at a little child, and Sid was like,
right.
We got
because they kind of have a little old man walk. They're kind of cute, and Sid was disturbed. He was deeply disturbed that most of the game was shooting these poor, terrible old aliens. So, yeah. Oh yeah.
So eventually you came to your senses.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Eventually we came to our senses, and yeah. This is one of those moments where, as a team, you just keep waiting for. When you hear about your favorite games, I'm telling you, this is what a lot of people go through. And Sid calls this the Valley of Despair, where you're working on a game, you're putting all you have into it, and the game is not fun. Like, this is a game that you know millions of people are looking forward to, but what you've put together is not fun, and it can be a little terrifying, and obviously we wouldn't do this talk if we hadn't gotten to the other side of that.
All right, so that was the original, vision for some of the sideline stuff. As you're going through game development, you're also, in this phase, also doing some stuff with temp VO, as we can hear there. Let's talk a bit about that, because I know you had some temp VO in the game.
This is some of my favorite stuff. We've got a guy on our team. His name is Roland Rizzo. He's Italian. He's this big Italian guy. He worked at Microprose when the original XCOM was being made. And so he's this I think he fakes his accent because it's so strong. He's like, hey, I need to put in the sounds for the laser rifle. And I'm not exaggerating, right? I'm not. You guys can watch videos of this guy when he talks, and he's like, he called us all scungili. Hey, scungili, I need to put in the sounds. And we thought scungili was like some gangster Italian term, and it turns out it's
bottom dweller shrimp or something like that.
Right. So I don't even think he knows what he's saying. I swear I don't even think he's Italian. So. But so we need to make the game as quickly as we can. We try and make the game as quickly as we can because a lot of bad ideas, you need to play through them to get to the good ones. And so we needed to get all the scratch audio in game, which means just temporary VO. And so we had all these lines we had written for the soldiers, and we didn't have anyone to do the scratch audio, but we wanted to see how much disk space this would take. And so Casey, you can tell, you told Roland to go record these,
right? We told Roland to go make something that he thought was going to be the proper size for a line. We'll make all the lines, and we'll put it in the game. We'll see how much memory it takes. Well, the part Roland missed was put it in the game. He really did not expect that this was going to go in the game. And the next day when he came in, everyone's coming into his office like, oh, I played the game this morning. It's so funny. It's hilarious. He marched right into my office. He's like, dude, that wasn't supposed to go in the game.
That wasn't supposed to go in the game, scungili.
Something like that.
Yeah, so
let's have some of these VO lines doing.
Yeah. Let's take a listen to these here. This is Roland.
Help, someone help. No, God damn it. I'm dead. Come on, you bucket of bolts.
Did not make the final product.
No, I mean, it's seriously.
Yeah, secret character, maybe.
Yeah, it was late. It was pretty late in the process, and at that point, I am like a complete stress case. And I come in, and the game is turned into a parody. Everybody is dying. They're making their soldiers get into horrible situations just so they can hear them go, ah! I'm dead. Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
All right, well, moving on from that, let's talk about Sid Meier and his involvement in this game. There's another wonderful photo of the benevolent Sid Meier. So Sid, obviously, integral part of everything that's done at Firaxis. How was he sort of involved in this game? I mean, Jake, obviously you had talked with him about it over the years. I know he still builds, prototypes in his own sort of little
he still runs his own team, and I'd always worked on Sid's team, and so I'd sort of been his right-hand man for a long time, and this was the first time I'd made a game on my own. And what I used to do for Sid was be his sort of design lieutenant, where he would make a prototype, I'd play it, and I'd be like, oh, that's no good, that's terrible, you should change this, or whatever, which made me think that I knew what the hell I was doing when it came to design, right? I was like, oh, look at this, I'm telling Sid Meier what's bad about his games. So from that point on, I went on to XCOM, with his blessing, and he helped me a lot. I would go into his office pretty much every day or every other day. And actually, his son Ryan is here, so Ryan can tell you how much time I spent in Sid's office crying. And this is true. I had made multiple prototypes of you saw the tactical problems. I'd made multiple prototypes of the strategy layer. Again, I was trying to do something new. And what you see here, I'm unproud to say, is a card-based version of XCOM strategy. So this is a sort of a card game over the strategy.
I like all the groans.
Yeah. This is a turn-based strategy layer. It's card-based, and it is terrible. And this was like my third or fourth try at the strategy layer, so I was getting more and more crazy. You know, like I was just like, well, how do you end up at a turn-based card game? Well, because you just go nuts. And so I went to Sid and I said, look, and this is true. I think I was getting worried. I think the team was getting worried. And so I went to Sid and I said, look, like I don't know that I'm cut out for this. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I've had a lot of bad prototypes. And so he said, okay, we're going to work together. And every day for the next 2 weeks, he and I worked on paper. We threw everything out. And he and I made a board game version of the strategy layer. And we used dice and little units to sort of work out the design systems. And it was like, you know, if you had told 13-year-old me that at some point in my life I'd be making board games in Sid's office in the afternoons, like I would have just died happy. And that's what we did. Like Sid and I worked out a paper version of the strategy layer. And then it got to a point where Sid and I are both programmers, and we disagreed about the next steps the prototype should go in. And so he said, you know what, let's move off of paper. You go away for a weekend, I'll go away for a weekend. I'm going to do a prototype. You do a prototype, and we'll come back together and play each other's prototypes. And so what you see here actually is Sid Meier's XCOM strategy prototype. And again, this was years ago, and so obviously a lot of these things didn't make it, but you can see, like, this is, you know, and again, Sid programs incredibly quickly, and so he did this in a weekend. He was like, okay, this is where I think the strategy layer should go. So I always think that's pretty cool. I went into his office the other day. I was like, hey, do you still have that old prototype? And yeah, he still had it. He fired it up, and we played it for a little bit. So, and then I made a prototype, which was pretty similar, right there. And so, again, it doesn't look anything like the game that came out, because, you know, this was just another step in the process. And yeah, this was just another strategy prototype. And you see, that looks very different than the game that you're going to have in your hands soon. So
you really like numbers, Jake.
Yeah. I do. Again, remember all those bad numbers in the tactical layer? I just figured, well, what the hell? I'll just put them in the strategy layer. So, yeah, not a good idea. So yeah, and that was sort of how Sid, and Sid's ideas, frankly, were better than mine. A lot more of his made into the strategy layer there. So yeah, that was Sid's involvement.
All right, so Sid was involved, and obviously still playing the game, kind of checking it out as you guys were going through development and giving constant feedback, I'm sure.
Yeah. He still plays and emails all the time.
Awesome. So let's talk about kind of, you talked about the strategy layer, some of those prototypes, iterating on that. Greg, let's talk a little bit about the, other sort of rejected ideas along the way. Looks like you guys had some fun sort of figuring out what the aliens were going to look like, right?
Yeah, so this was actually a really good one, because we were working with the chrysalid. And, the rupture should be something really dramatic when another baby chrysalid is born. And so we had a long discussion about this, and it was actually in a group meeting where, unfortunately, I invited the entire team. And we were talking about it. We were talking about how horrific this was, and maybe that it crossed the line. And so the original drawing isn't this, but this is what one of the concept guys went back and redid, trying to make it a little more friendly. But yeah, so
rejected.
It was pretty funny. But it was, we're discussing, were we crossing a line? Having your soldiers die this violently, because it was pretty gory, and it stayed.
So from there, you guys obviously this is another blunder, so to speak, right? Skyrim.
The rainbow alien that urinates acid. I'm scared. Are you scared? Yeah. Can you feel the XCOM? Yeah.
That was kind of the description I was given to make this.
No, it was my mistake, I'm just saying. That's a very good rendering of a bad idea, right?
This was fun. We went back and forth with this, and we added some armor to him, and we kind of added everything we could, and probably the worst drawing we've done.
Wait, there's, no, I wouldn't, he doesn't claim the title yet.
Get ready for the next slide.
The next one's even better.
Battletoads. What am I seeing? Is that a 4-story toad? Yes, yes it is.
Did not make it.
Yeah, this didn't make it at all either, but this was something where we were talking about, well, this thing would eat your soldiers, but they weren't dead yet, and you had to actually kill it within so many turns to actually get your soldiers back. And it was a little weird. And
yeah, I'd been playing a lot of Left 4 Dead, right? So I was like, yeah, this guy's big tongue will come out and he'll grab the soldiers, and maybe if you shoot him, he'll vomit the soldier. It was just that. Again, another not stellar idea.
Next up, here's the Sky Ranger, right?
Yeah, the Sky Ranger. This one went back and forth a lot, and we've made a lot of jokes about it. But the Sky Ranger was one of those things. It was one of the iconic things about XCOM that you have to have, and you got to do it right. So to me, it was a really important character, even though it's not a character. And so we went through lots and lots of revisions, and making it fit numbers of soldiers, and whether it was on the battlefield or part of the battlefield, and there were all sorts of things that obscuring things, lots of challenges that we went through. At one point, it opened from the front, and your soldiers came out of the front, and then we're like, well,
and that was fully modeled and animated. We had that in the game.
Yeah, and so
so a lot of effort went into this, it sounds like.
Yeah, there was a good bit of effort in this, but there was a lot of problem solving early. As well, and I think even the visibility solutions and some of the things we came up with later, cutting away things, kind of started with this being really the first structure that was in the game in some ways.
Cool. Next up, we'll talk about the globe, Casey. Putting a 3D globe in the game. Tell us about kind of the development of this.
Right. So I guess one of the things that we didn't show was the globe was actually in the game. Originally first.
That was one of my very first strategy prototypes.
And then Jake did some additional prototypes where the globe was not there.
Right. And it was
multiple prototypes. And I had gotten to the point where I had removed all of the globe code from the game. We're never going back to the globe. And the next day, Jake comes into my office and he's like, can we put that globe back in? And it was just this back and forth where, that's one thing about Firaxis is we iterate, and that you have to be willing to kind of throw stuff away and put it back in and change, and this was certainly something that we did a lot with the globe.
And this was a moment, yeah. So this, again, I showed you all the flat strategy prototypes, and some were globe, and this was, and Garth, Greg, this was a moment where I had to have a leads meeting when we went back to the 3D globe, because this was fairly late in development too, and I called the guys together, which we typically, we have leads meetings, but this was one of those meetings.
Impromptu one.
Yeah, this one was one where I was like, look, I said, we need to go to a 3D globe. The 2D is just too cold. It's not XCOM. We have to go back to the 3D globe. I have a new prototype. It's going to work, I swear. If we're speaking really honestly, I think that was a very hard time for all of us as leads, because at that point, it was pretty late in the process. I know you guys were starting to get a little worried, right?
Oh yeah, of course. But we trusted that the reasons that you had for it were 100% valid, and we all wanted to get behind it. But yeah, you made the decision 2 days before launch. It was tough.
All right, so you got the 3D globe in there. Garth, let's talk a little bit about level design and what's called Garth's mansion. They're tight spaces.
Yeah.
Worst level ever made, right here.
So I may have been a little, well, first of all, one of the cool things about Firaxis, yes, I'm in charge of the time and the schedule, but I really got to contribute from a design perspective, and especially early in the project, I worked directly with the level design team, built some levels, and I may have been too enamored with Greg's movie, because I said we have to get that claustrophobic feel, the feeling of tension. We can make houses and suburbs, so I prototyped. In Max, I actually made a mansion, and Sid always says sometimes you can push things very far and then always scale back. I might have pushed this one a little too far. There's 5 different floors. It has a wing with an indoor pool in it. It's got an attic, a basement. It's pretty crazy. But one of the things we learned from that, which was pretty invaluable, was that unfortunately with our system, tight spaces with multi-floors on top of each other, they just didn't work with our gameplay.
It's murder. It makes it really, really slow and
it's very slow. It's hard to know who you're targeting at when you have aliens on different floors. So, you see this stuff and you're like, wow, you threw it away after, a few days of making it and then a few weeks of playtesting and getting feedback. But what this did was this showed the team, we have to make dozens and dozens and dozens of levels. We're not going to plan on making buildings like this in those maps. We're going to focus on one-story buildings. Maybe we'll have some pit gameplay, which is very fun, and we have in our buildings.
We have like two-story,
Yeah.
we have like two-story buildings.
We have a roof and
yeah. So this helped us like solidify our design rules for like having 2 stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It also made it very clear that Garth's path was not art.
Yeah.
It also had a pool in the middle, right?
Yeah. No. It was in the wing.
In the wing.
Yes.
Okay.
My
It's a
dream
nice
house.
mansion, but so that stuff that we saw in the original kind of concept video, you weren't really able to achieve with that level of detail, right?
No, because when we do have plenty of urban buildings with multiple floors, but you just have to be really careful. It actually is. We have them, but it's very slow to play with. It just really slows things down. The sightlines are no fun. It's a very confusing space to play in, and we found that. And the original game was like that too. The original game interiors were generally just open blocks, and we went back to that after we did level layouts like this, where it wasn't at all like the original, and there was a reason why they did that.
Yeah, so this one, I worked with the level design team, our lead level designer, Todd Broadwater. We made this map, and this was sort of a third world, favela-inspired map where we said, all right, we're not going to make these 4-story structures, but we can have tiered sort of shack shantytown gameplay. And it actually turned out to be pretty fun from a gray box perspective. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work as with an art set, we weren't going to invest a lot of time in making that for one-off maps. And also, it just disobeyed some rules. It was a very large map. It had a ton of fracturable walls, and I don't think it would have shown.
Yeah, it was cool, but it was really complicated. And you can see there, like that's the one number. Like that was when we were at one number with the soldiers,
Right.
that guy up top there. And this is how we built all our levels. We do them all gray box, and and then we test them. Some of them we throw out, some we keep, and that's just part of the process.
It is one of the favorite maps of the developers, though. It's one of the first maps where the game really was starting to become playable. Destruction was shown. And so when you talk to some of the guys about old maps, everyone mentions Shantytown.
Yeah.
Yeah, shantytown.
Shantytown. Now, obviously, this game being in sort of 3D. I mean, you think about camera angles and how to sort of work with that and make it playable for the player, especially since you were thinking about console and PC, which I think is one of the most interesting things about this project is that you guys were saying, hey, let's do this game for the consoles. Casey, tell us a bit about sort of the development and programming of sort of thinking about camera angles and how to make it work for players.
Well, cameras are hard, and we won't pretend to say that we got it perfect. But this was definitely an area where Greg had gone and made a movie that featured some third-person cameras, and we threw them in, and it kind of became my personal baby. I just absolutely loved the way these cameras looked, and. But there were some issues with the cameras, and Jay came into my office one day and said, this camera's just not really working. Until it works, like, we have to remove it from the game. And I think that was just Jake's way of motivating us to find and fix all of the things that were wrong with the camera, which, we fixed most of them.
Also, the cameras were terrible at that point. But we have this movie, which we're going to show, again, is something we've never shown outside of the studio. This one's really cool. This one set up a lot of the tone.
And I think this one, too, you look at it, we were really focusing on, trying to make the world more immersive to the cameras, to the actions of the characters. We've stylized the characters at this point, so you're going to see that where the action figure thing really started taking hold. There's a lot of meat in this one. And it's a lot of stuff that ended up, making it in, I think, in a lot of ways.
All right, let's take a look.
Move out and keep your eyes open. I got it.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, one thing to point out, that was again something that was in the tactical, that like you notice that they were shooting all the time. That was actually in the game. For a long time, units would begin shooting immediately. When they were in range of each other, they just constantly fired each other. And that was something that looked cool, but was like just baffling. Like nobody knew what was going on. So for a long time, that's just, again, another sign of something where it's like we never let it be said we wouldn't try anything once. So.
Right. And I mean, that movie was motivation too. We looked at that movie and we tried to figure out all of the different elements that we could realistically do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd actually done that as sort of a skunkworks project, and hadn't been real vocal about it. It was kind of a side thing. And once we got it, it was pretty cool. So we said, we'll show the whole team, and we showed it to the programmers, and I thought they were going to totally flip on me, but when they saw it, they were all like, yeah, we can do some of that, yeah. And so luckily, Casey jumped on it, and they got a lot of these things working.
It was probably a week after seeing the movie. I probably wasn't really supposed to start working on this third-person camera code, but was so motivated to get that in the game that we started to build it and solve all of these cases of shooting at things that are up in the air, shooting at things that are visually obstructed, but not, you can shoot through bushes. Everyone expects to shoot through a bush, but you can't see something through a bush from a third-person camera. So we came up with outlining the aliens. And this is just a perfect example of a guy that's surrounded by aliens. I mean, look at all of the alien heads that you can see there, and trying to find a spot to put the camera that looked good.
Yep. Oh, very cool. Next topic we'll talk about is the idea of permadeath. Bravery. This is on the wall at Firaxis, is it? But let's talk about that. Permadeath is obviously, it's been a core part of XCOM games. Do you guys have any sort of stories from development about how this is evolved?
Permadeath is, the reason that permadeath is important is that's kind of what sets XCOM apart is, I think that for people to have real emotions in games, I think that there has to be consequence. You have to feel like you're putting something at risk, and you have to know that, in some ways this sounds weird, but you have to know the game doesn't care about you. You know the game and the world that the game is set in is not trying to hold your hand. And so because of that, the fact that your soldiers can die creates a much, much stronger investment in the soldiers and the XCOM organization than if it was the sort of thing where, well, they're just unconscious, you'll get them back at the end of the map. Well, then you don't care, they're just little pawns. But when you develop these soldiers and you care about them and you put them at risk, even when they survive, you have these incredible memories of them and it feels real. It is real because those choices that you made, those consequences, they're all real. They're not fake. And so permadeath was something that, like, as many things as I tried design-wise, permadeath was never, ever, ever on the table. We all knew that permadeath would be in the game, so. And we have some guys have some great stories with it. I mean, Greg, we call Greg Permadeath because he's the worst multiplayer player, like in our offices, he is the worst guy in XCOM multiplayer ever. So his nickname is Permadeath, actually.
You gonna take that, Greg?
That's the truth.
Okay.
Now, it was funny when we were, we started out playing the original game a little bit every Friday or every other Friday, and one of our animators, he was playing, and he just got slaughtered, and he screamed like a baby. Like, he just screamed like a baby. So, Garth?
Daisy? Oh, you want me to tell mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Oh, no, actually, you have to tell yours, because that's your guy. Yeah.
So I had made a comment before in another interview a while back. I said, real men don't reload. Real men play Iron Man. And I firmly believed that at the time. And then I started to play the game, and I'm going to play in Classic, which is pretty hard. And I didn't select Iron Mode, but I was fully intending not to reload the game. And then my buddy here, Jerry Hardcore McCarthy, 7 missions in, has got 25 kills, something like that. He kind of died, and I really had to reload. I couldn't deal with my boy Jerry here dying, so you guys can have my man card.
And we actually should say you went on to lose that game, right?
I did.
Which is just in case anybody's worried about like the difficulty or anything like that. Yeah, this is our lead program. He's played the game tons, but yeah, he played on Classic. And even not in Iron Man mode, you got into a state where it was like, it was unwinnable.
Right. I told Jake when we were making the game, I want to lose this game the very first time I play it. And I did play on a harder difficulty level, but it is hard. But I realize that when I go back and I replay it, the mistakes that I made and how I hope to win it the next time that I start a game.
All right, Garth, let's talk about your story.
Oh man, I've done a lot of playthroughs in the past few months. This game is so fun. And one thing I do, I emotionally connect. You guys read those names? Oh, good. I emotionally connect with my soldiers. I've talked a lot about my family and friends, but I did the XCOM Pendables playthrough.
Okay.
And I did 80s action heroes, 80s and 90s action heroes, and this was one of my final squads. You got Arnold in there, and Bruce Willis in his bald form, and Wesley Snipes, Jean-Claude Van Damme. It was just a ton of fun to come up with those ideas and play through saving the world with some of your childhood heroes.
That's the Demolition Man, Wesley Snipes there with the white hair. I like that.
Yes, it is. Actually, he became psionic, so I gave him white hair because he's now enlightened. And yes, and Demolition Man. Yes, it was great fun. Now, Jake actually, a lot of the team heard me. It was one evening in the office, or late afternoon, and I was in the office. This was my first playthrough where I lost almost over 40 soldiers, I'm ashamed to say, but the game is hard. I was on a very, very tension-filled crashed UFO mission, and the guys are all working, they don't know what I'm doing, and all of a sudden, I genuinely scream out, "Oh my God, my mom died."
And this is like late at night crunch, and so everybody's like, and so I laughed because I knew he was doing a playthrough, but there were tons of people who didn't know that Garth was doing a playthrough with his mother as a soldier. And so they're like, "Oh my God, his mom just died."
People seriously started like slowly walking, like peeking in my office, like, "Are you okay, man?" And I'm like just sitting there like head down with the controller in my hands, and yeah. I love my
real life crosses with XCOM. All right, well that's fun. You got some good permadeath death stories. All right, well we've got another trailer to show you guys, which I think just came out recently, but we'll show it to you right now. It is the Casualties of War trailer. Check it out.
The scene on the ground here is one of utter pandemonium. Nothing has been able to slow the enemy
down. War is upon us. We are experiencing heavy casualties. Our operatives represent the best our nations have to offer. They are aided by our most advanced technology. But still they fall. Do not be careless with the lives of your troops, Commander. Few will survive to see the end of this conflict. Fewer still will possess the skills necessary to end it. Good luck, Commander.
All right, October 9th. You guys gonna be there? All right. I'm curious, how many of you guys are gonna play on PC? Are you guys gonna play on console?
Yeah, console.
All right, just checking. All right, we got some time for some Q&A from you guys. If you have questions for the team, they're all here before they go back to finish up the game. If you guys want to line up with the mics, we will take questions. We've got about 9 minutes for questions, so let's get through them quickly since we have a lot of people lined up.
Okay,
Let's
testing.
start over here.
All right. Okay, so yeah, how will the level design differ from?
Whoa.
How will the level design differ in different regions of the world?
We do have regionalized maps. Now, we do have with variations and stuff, we have over 100?
Yeah, there's
over 100 maps.
With variations,
yeah. You'll play the whole game twice. You will not see the same map. And that's not even to take into account the different spawn points. Aliens are random, alien positions are random, what aliens you face, all that stuff. We do have some regionalized maps as well. Just because of the massive asset requirements, we didn't regionalize all the maps, but we do have specifically regionalized maps, so European maps will look different, North American maps will look different, some Asian maps will look different as well. So yeah, we have regionalized maps as well.
Okay.
Over there, go ahead.
A strategy I used in the original XCOM, and I hope I'm not the only one, was kind of making my own entrance to buildings on terror missions, especially because finding a door is hard when you can just blow the wall down. Right. Did that make it back into this one? I played the demo this morning.
Oh yeah. It
seemed like I could only aim at like the aliens, and I was a little worried.
Oh no.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on our destruction system, so you can, by all means, if you see a building, know that you can blow a hole in the side of that building and walk in. And use advanced tactics, leave your sniper outside, blow a hole in, and move your close combat guys in, definitely.
The worst time is when you blow a hole by accident, and then you reveal like 2 other pods that you didn't want to. And yes, those memories still happen quite often.
Cool. Next question right here.
So, anyone here have a chance to check out Frozen Synapse? It seems to use a bunch of ideas from Laser Squad Nemesis.
Yes, Casey's a pretty good Frozen Synapse player. I mean, obviously we love tactical games, and Frozen Synapse was a pretty popular game around our offices. And Casey, you're pretty good.
Yeah, I played the.
He's not that good.
He's okay. There's a bunch of guys around our office that have played it and are big fans and find that it's a lot of fun. So we try to play absolutely everything that's even remotely related to what we're doing, and not even just because that's what we're doing, but because we love games like that. Yeah.
I wasn't that good at Laser Squad Nemesis, but I was passable at Frozen Synapse.
You're probably better than Casey.
No, you're probably better than Greg.
Thanks for your question. Yes, go ahead.
All right, actually I have 2 questions. One, I heard multiplayer, and I gotta admit, my ears perked up a little bit. What kind of multiplayer capabilities are for this game?
So multiplayer it's very tabletop inspired because we're nerds and we love tabletop games. Sorry, we just do. Deal with it. I know you're my people. We're in the right place. We're like Necromunda or War Machines or. Yes. So anyway, yeah, it's very tabletop inspired, where we open up the toy chest and you're given a set number of points, and with that points you can buy any single unit and combine them into crazy squads. And we've been live streaming multiplayer matches, and it's the sort of thing where the tactics really are like unending. We continue to play long after we have to. We continue to play multiplayer matches, and guys play multiplayer matches at the office over lunch because it's super fun.
All right, and my last question is, and to be honest, I have been a fan of this game for all of about 5 hours, but
great, glad to have you.
Right, but I've heard a little bit about the enemies themselves in comparison to previous games. Are they similar? Are there new ones?
Yeah, we've got obviously a lot of them. We haven't shown all the aliens, nor will we. There are some aliens you'll just find when you play. We have, obviously we're deeply inspired by the original, so we try to bring back the ones that meant the most to us. And then certainly we've added new aliens as well, so things like the Thin Men and the Berserker, and we've added some new aliens as well that sort of we feel fit into the menagerie.
All right, awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for your question. Go ahead.
We've got a question from our 2K live stream.
Oh, wow. All right.
We're going to let them ask some questions, although you don't have much time, so we're just going to do one from the live stream. The guy with the screen name, Don't Mess XCOM Up. which if any of you read the forums, you're familiar with him. He wants to know what the hardest feature was to implement in the game. Of all these ideas that ended up in the game, what was the hardest, most difficult one?
Strategy layer? I mean, it was the hardest for me. I mean,
it's different for each of us.
It's different for each of us, yeah. For me, the strategy layer took me years. Yeah.
For me, it was the destruction had to be one of the most daunting things we did.
Yeah, I think for the programmers, the visibility system, just making sure that you can see what you want to see and having it play well was very difficult. Yeah.
For me, it was the mansion, still not implemented.
Where's that damn mansion? All right, go ahead.
So the unforgiving difficulty and permadeath and everything like that, obviously integral to maintaining the horror atmosphere in the original XCOM on a mechanical level. As a design student, I'm very curious about what decisions or what some of the decisions are that you made during the development of this game to maintain that sense of horror mechanically while opening up the game to a broader audience and making sure it's still approachable, because...
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, what it is, and this is true, I mean, we do, look, do we want more people to experience the game? We absolutely do. But as a designer and as a team, you get into a lot of trouble trying to appeal to a mythical audience that may or may not exist. And so my goal was to make an XCOM that people would play and say, that's XCOM. Like, it's tough, it's challenging, it's brutal. And so we always said, if we did something and then we said to ourselves, this is an XCOM, then we would throw it out. And so, that being said, we worked really hard to make the game more accessible. We have a tutorial, which is a major feature of the original. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's obviously updating the UI. We have lots of help. We have a UFOpedia. We have archives. We've got so much stuff for the player to learn how to play the game. But at the same time, we said, we think an audience exists for a very, very, very complex turn-based strategy game. We're going to find out, but we think that if XCOM, if the original was one of the greatest games of all time, then drifting away from that and thinking you can do better is probably a giant mistake. And so whenever in doubt, we just said, look, we just got to stick with the magic of the original game, and we'll see if that works.
All right, it's time for our final question, unfortunately. Thanks to everyone else for lining up, though. Yes, go ahead.
How difficult was it to choose between the old time unit system of the game and the current two-move system that made it into the final game?
Man, I thought we were going to miss that question. That's all the time we have. I'm sorry. It was hard. I mean, if you look at our original movie, we had time units in. We had a build with time units in it for a very long time. And the thing is, now that the game is pretty much done, you know, it was always, I felt bad trying to sell the system before. I felt like I'm trying to give you a marketing line where I say, like, look, time units didn't work with all the extra stuff we added to the game, all the squad abilities, all the soldier abilities, the idea of using your soldiers together as a squad, it did not work with time units. And so the two-move system allowed the player to think of their squad as one big unit and use them together. And we have had a lot of feedback from people who've played that, like, that now that they understand why we did it, and trust me. What I would say to people is that, trust me, any sort of skepticism about features that we removed, I understand. I understand as much as anyone. But I would say that, like, we're really, really happy with where we've ended up, and we still think that the game that we have is very, very much XCOM. And
so if you actually want to see that again, if you guys want to, since we didn't get that right early, if you want to see the movie where we actually had time units in, do you guys want to see that? You want to stick around for that? You want to show it? Yeah?
Right.
All right, I think we can do that. So we're gonna pop that up real quick on the screen. And again, this was the initial previs movie we did. We can't get it? Oh, you killed me! Never mind then, I'm just teasing you.
Maybe one day it'll be seen again, right?
One day.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. All right, well, XCOM, of course, is coming out on October the 9th, so make sure to check it out. Thanks to all the guys from Firaxis.
Thank you, guys.